my name is Catherine Pabon. I am your host on Z-Files podcast, where we bring your curiosity to our conversations. Today I have a very special guest, Judge Jamie Levy. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and like why you're here?
I don't know why I'm here.
You don't know why you're here?
No. I know it's a podcast, but I don't exactly know why.
Yeah, no problem.
I don't know. I actually don't know what Z-Files is.
Okay, so Z-Files, Generation Z.
Got
so
that.
That's where
Okay.
I am. I made this so that I was on an internship in Washington, the Washington Center program in DC, and we were having plenary sessions and everything where we were speaking to professionals, politicians, White House correspondents and everything, and they were just talking and we were able to ask questions, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. I wish like more people had this opportunity to like have a interpersonal relationship with professionals. So I thought, well, I'll create a podcast where I could kind of like navigate that for younger generations to have like that relationship. So, but I'm the one creating the questions.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I like it.
And then you're running for the Court of Common Pleas. So what drew you to public service in the first place? With like besides law, but you're a firefighter, EMT work, and then council work. Like what drew you to that?
Well, I've always had to help my community in deep regard, and always wanted to give back. I was the first person in my family to ever go to college, and there wasn't really like a path, outlined for me. So it was tough navigating sometimes, especially charting a course that nobody in my family could really relate to. So along the way, a lot of people have given me guidance and help, and I wanted to give back. And basically, when I see a need, I try to fill that need. And as a firefighter, during the pandemic, we needed firefighters. So I joined up, went to fire school, and became a firefighter.
That's amazing. So you really gave back.
And as an EMT, I always wanted to go to medical school, but as time moved on, and I've been practicing as an attorney for over almost 25 years.
Yeah.
And I started my window to become a doctor and a lawyer.
Do you think it started to close?
Kind of closed a little bit on me. I just, after, be in residency for a period of time, I figured
it does take a long time.
Would be a little too old. So I decided to become a medical professional, an EMT. So I went to EMT school, became an EMT, and now I volunteer every other Friday for a 12-hour shift with my local ambulance company.
It's amazing. Yeah, my sister, she did an EMT program in high school, and it was like a 6-month program, so it's definitely a lot shorter than becoming a medical professional doctor.
Absolutely.
So you're currently a magisterial district judge. How does that prepare you for a much serious cases? Like, do you feel like you're going to be able to fill those bigger shoes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I consider, even at my level, which is the district court level, all the matters that come before me is as serious.
Yeah.
It's just the grading in the level. In terms of what we do in the district court, we handle landlord-tenant matters. We handle civil cases that go up to the jurisdictional limit of $12,000.
Right.
We handle truancy cases. We handle lower level criminal matters. In terms of, we do all the arraignments for all the criminal matters, including all the felonies, aggravated assault, rape, burglary, murder, and we also do the preliminary hearings for them. But we can only decide and make decisions on misdemeanors, certain levels of misdemeanors. Most of the felonies have to go up to the Court of Common Pleas for trials, because the district court is not a trial level court. It's not a court of record. So we don't have a court reporter or a stenographer, and we don't have a jury, which is important because, as you're aware, most people have a right to a jury trial, to be judged by their peers. In the district court, I am the fact finder and I make the judgment. In the Court of Common Pleas, the jury is the fact finder and I'm the arbiter of the law. And I'm fully ready for it. As an attorney, I spent pretty much every day in court.
Yeah.
I was a civil litigator, a trial attorney for much of my career, and so I'm no stranger to that environment, and I'm ready to go.
Do you think that differentiates you from like the other candidates that are running, like being like a judge already?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm the only judge in the race. I'm the only candidate with any judicial experience, any judicial training. They send me away to Harrisburg a week a year for judge school, And I think my experiences on the bench making decisions and judgments and weighing very serious and important matters concerning people's life, liberty, and happiness makes me uniquely qualified.
Yeah, it definitely does.
To be a judge in the next level.
Mm-hmm. So why now run? Do you feel you're most prepared now? You don't want to wait, or you don't want to do it any sooner?
Well, there's a couple of different reasons. One is these sort of positions don't come up all the time.
Yeah.
For the most part, you have to pretty much wait till a judge decides that they want to retire, and that doesn't happen too often. That's why it's very important to weigh your decision very carefully, because these judges tend to be on the bench at that level for decades. So you want to make sure you get someone who is qualified, who treats people with dignity and respect, and who is compassionate and listens to people and treats them fairly. So I believe that I am that person, and I think I've exhibited and displayed those qualities as a district judge. And yeah.
Definitely a now or never. You never know if they're going to retire again.
It's kind of tough. I mean, I absolutely love being a district judge. Being a district judge is like being the community judge. I'm the judge in my community, and I bring community justice. So I try to right wrongs in my community, and I'm very happy to do that. As an attorney, I've done that for many, many years for my clients. Now I want to move to a larger scale and be able to do that for everyone in the county.
It's amazing. So a lot of young people, especially first-time voters here in the Poconos, on my TikTok account, I have an analytics of 60% between 18 to 28 that view that platform. So for first-time voters in the Poconos, especially the young ones, who might most likely don't know the difference between the two, how would you put it down in simple terms for them?
Well, you
already explained it.
Like I was explaining to you before, the courts they're different in a lot of different ways. At the district court level, like I said, there's no jury trials.
Right.
So the trial court is the Court of Common Pleas. They handle all the family law related matters, and they handle all the civil complaints that are in excess of $12,000. So the jurisdictional limit in district court is lawsuits that only go up to $12,000. Okay. We also handle landlord-tenant matters, which they don't handle up in the Court of Common Pleas unless they go up there on appeal. So we're basically the court of first impression for most of the people in the county. So they go to their district judge and they get their first experience in district court. And if they're for whatever reason unsatisfied, or they believe they didn't get the justice they deserve, they have the automatic right to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. And the Court of Common Pleas has much broader jurisdiction over a lot of other matters that we don't cover in district court.
Right. And then with the 2 judgeships opening up in Monroe County, what should voters really be paying attention to when they head to the polls?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, like I was saying, the longevity of the position makes it such that the judge that's going to be elected is more likely than not going to be the judge that covers a large portion of your lifespan. Yeah. For potentially up to 30 years. Maybe even longer, depending how old the judge who is elected in next year is going to be, because it's a 10-year term, and after every 10 years, you don't run for re-election, you run for retention. So you're automatically on the ballot, and it's a yes or no vote. And historically, in the state of Pennsylvania, it's very unlikely that judges are not retained. So judges, like the 2 judges that are retiring now, they've been on the bench for over 20 years. Right. So it's going to be very important, especially to the Gen Z voters, to pick wisely, pick people who are fair to them, who understand, their position in our community and what their needs are, because that person's going to be making decisions in their life, when they get married, when they buy their first home, and all of the major life decisions that are going to happen to them in the next 20, 30 years. So it's going to be very important to pick someone who most accurately meets their needs.
And then growing up here, going to East Stroudsburg High School, and then just being a first responder here and working here, what changes have you seen or stayed the same with local justice?
Well, in terms of local justice, I mean, it's expanded somewhat in that from time to time, as the population increases, we get more judges.
Right.
So as the population increases, we get more strains on our infrastructures, more strains on our needs in terms of law enforcement. But
and we have such a growing population, especially with the commuter.
I'm not originally from Pennsylvania. I was born in Brooklyn, and I moved to Pennsylvania when I was 15. And at that time, there was a big population explosion. A lot of people from New York and New Jersey were coming over into the Poconos. People had the prospect of becoming homeowners, which was very difficult in the city because, the price of property was so expensive. So my parents, like many others, came out. We moved out here, and I went to East Stroudsburg High School. And when we first moved out here in 1990, there was a lot of open space. And since then, in the last 35 years, there's been a lot of development, and a lot more people moved into the Poconos, which is great. It makes us much more diverse, and we were able to understand a lot of different cultures that we didn't really understand before because they weren't really in our area. But now we come into contact with so many different people, and it just makes us a better community, a more understanding community. So I think that it's definitely a good thing. But in terms of the justice system, it also means more of a caseload, more legal issues or diverse legal issues that we didn't have before.
More demand.
And more demand, for sure. So, and even in my court, I try to be as efficient as possible and move things along without sacrificing people's want to be heard and listened to and treated with dignity and respect. And that's why I think that, I'm a good judge, and I think that the people in my neighborhood, my community, as a neighborhood judge, respect me and they appreciate my judgment.
Amazing. What do you think is misunderstood about the court systems?
It's a good question. I think that there are a lot of misunderstandings about the court system. And I think that a lot of that comes from fear of the unknown.
Right.
When you walk into a court for the first time, you don't know what to expect. I have people that come into my court all the time and they're literally shaking. Sometimes they're crying. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going to happen to them. And they're scared. So what I do is, off the bat, is I try to explain to them the process. I tell them procedurally what's going to happen, why it's happening. I even read the law to them so they understand, and there's no mystery and there's no misunderstanding, and they feel better. They're more at ease. They're more comfortable. And when that nervousness and anxiety leaves, I find that they're more receptive to understanding what's going on and appreciating it more. Because a lot of people get this, there's a stigma with regard to the institution that only bad things happen in court, but that's not true. We also marry people.
Get justice.
I marry people there all the time. So happiest of events also takes place in court, and a greater understanding and enlightenment, I think, happens in court. In my court, I have the first and only in the county. I started a internship program. I actually have my intern now, currently goes to ESU. She's graduating in a couple of weeks.
Oh my God, me
Tia.
too, yeah.
Yeah, so she's wonderful. And I've had a few interns, and I think it's an amazing way to pass on generational knowledge to other people so that it removes the stigma. So people are not afraid of the institution, so that they could come to court and not be scared and understand that they have rights, that they have a right to be heard, that they have due process, and they can seek the justice they deserve by simply coming and being present, taking part of, the justice process.
And will the internship program proceed if you were to get voted in for the Court of Common Pleas?
Like I said, there's 9 magisterial district judges in our county. And I'm the only one that started this, and I'm the only one that actually utilizes it. I've been talking to the other district judges to try to get them to implement similar programs. And we're working on it, but it's ultimately going to be up to whoever's behind that bench, whoever's sitting in that bench, it's going to be up to them. But I think it's an amazing program. I think it's a great way to give back, because we have an obligation to train the next generation of lawyers or law enforcement agents. And the only way to really do that is by giving them hands-on experience and exposure to our justice system.
I've definitely benefited from internships, so I agree with that. Just to bring it back to like a more community sense of the Poconos, being here for a while, what is your favorite small business here?
Ooh, it's a loaded question. I've been all over the county in the last 35 years, And there are a lot of establishments, a lot of small businesses, a lot of fine dining establishments, which I enjoy and I frequent. I mostly enjoy it for the people that work there. We got a lot of amazing people who live right here in this county. And when I first moved here in 1990, that wasn't necessarily the case. A lot of people, my father included, had to commute out of the county for work. And as we support our businesses, as we support our entrepreneurs in the county, they start developing and building jobs here so that our kids and their kids can stay and work in a place where they grew up, which was not that easy 35 years ago. So I really appreciate our small businesses, and I try to frequent them and utilize them as much as possible. In terms of giving you a recommendation or an opinion, I'm governed actually as an elected sitting judge. I'm governed by the judicial rules of conduct. And one of the rules of conduct states that I'm not allowed to give opinions or recommendations with regard to certain matters. I'm also not allowed to participate in fundraising ventures. For example, with my fire department, I'm not allowed to participate in the boot drive or the coin toss that we do 3 times a year, because the intent of the law is they don't want people to think that if they frequent a business that I like or a restaurant that I like, that they could somehow influence me, the judge, in my decision making or the court. So I'm not allowed to participate or give opinions, because if I said I like, XYZ restaurant, go there, and then people will come into my court and say, hey, judge, I'm here for burglary, but I went to that restaurant you liked, and I spent a lot of time and money there. I don't want them to think that that's a way to get access, because that's not justice and that's not fair.
Ethical
so the law and the rules are there for a reason, and I abide by them. But I will say, like I said, there are a lot of fine establishments all over the county.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where can people learn more about your work or upcoming primary election events before May 20th?
You can go to my website, which is judgejamielevy.com. And there's a lot of information out there on the web where, if you just Google my name, you'll see a lot of things I've done and a lot of things that I'm planning on doing. I don't have a lot of events planned. I'm more of a grassroots candidate. Like, I don't believe in people hurting. Like, a lot of other candidates will have events where they ask people to come to them, and then they ask people for money, and then they ask people to vote for them. That's a lot of asking of people. I don't really do that. I go door to door. I have more of a grassroots approach. Like, I go to you. I make house calls. I don't think I'm asking you to vote for me. I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to believe in me. I'm asking you to look at I'm already asking you for so much. The least I could do is come to you and present my case or present who I am, so you could meet the person, meet the candidate. And I enjoy doing that. And people are very receptive when I go to their houses. For the most part, they tell me that, nobody ever comes here, and they're very happy of that, because I think it's important. I think it's important to meet the people who you want to represent you, meet the people who you're going to choose to judge you, and kind of get a sense of who they are, because otherwise it's a mystery, and that leads to that fear and anxiety when you walk into the court and you're before Judge Levy for the first time, and you've never seen him, you don't know him, you don't know how he is he mean, is he fair, is he respectful, is he compassionate? You don't know these things, but if you get to meet me beforehand, I think that goes a long way to, giving you some insight as to the type of person that I am.
Putting like a voice, a face to the name.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Is there anything else you would like to put out there to the audience, your potential voters?
Well, I'd like to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
I think, what you're doing and giving people, insight into the candidates or the people you speak to, I think is very helpful to them. It gives a platform to people who otherwise may not have a platform, and a voice to people who may not have a voice, and I think that's very special. So, Catherine, thank you very much for allowing me to be here to talk about myself.
Thank you for being here.
Asking me questions. All your questions were really good. And believe me, I've been asked some that are not as good, but I really appreciate your questions. And no, I just wanted to say, if anybody wanted any more information about me, feel free to reach out to me. I'm very accessible. My court is open to the public. You can even come to my court while it's in session. I can't really talk to you about anything that has to do with this campaign. However, I'm happy to meet you, and you can see how I work and the type of judge that I am and the type of judge that you can expect in the Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So that was it for today on the Behind the Ballot. Today we had Judge Jamie Levy, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.